Lotus actually has some potential then. Any card that can just be reduced in 1 mana cost and still have the same effect, that's really good. You play Violet Teacher and then you play Mark of the Lotus. The Mark of the Lotus effectively summons a 2/2 and gives your Violet Teacher +1/+1. That's what you usually did with Power of the Wild. You would play Violet Teacher and then Power of the Wild. Now you just play Violet Teacher, Mark of the Lotus. Maybe this Power of the Wild, maybe it shoves it aside. Maybe you play both. Because Power of the Wild can summon a 3/2. I mean, you never played the Power of the Wild for the 2-mana 3/2, but it was often useful, and you often did it. Just because sometimes you couldn't do a +1/+1. Mark of the Lotus takes Power of the Wild to an extreme and doesn't give you the option, so sometimes it's a completely dead card. If you top deck this and you have no minions, it's probably one of the worst cards you could get. So Violet Teacher plus Mark of the Lotus just by itself is 5 mana for a 4/6 and a 2/2. Which is strong. Violet Teacher plus Living Roots plus Mark of the Lotus, and you would use Mark of the Lotus with Living Roots quite a bit, is 12/14. You can check my math on that, but that's 6 mana for 12/14 in stats. That's pretty good. And if you throw the coin in there, you can do that on turn 5 and you get an extra 2/2. In Arena, usually, like, if you are in control of the board, then you stay in control of the board. I'm not sure in Arena. I'll say in Arena it's like okay, but we'll see. Pilfered Power is a card with a lot of potential, but I'm not saying it has potential. But I've heard the scenarios that you can get. You play turn 1 Living Roots, you do turn 2 Living Roots, Innervate, Pilfered Power, you casually gain 4 mana, and then you, on the following turn, on turn 3, you have 7 mana. But you know what is a more practical card than Pilfered Power and having that scenario happen? Just play Astral Communion, and Astral Communion was terrible. So it turns out that a card that ramps on 3 mana and requires you to actually have like more than 2 minions in play in order to be better than Wild Growth is pretty situational. It's like Astral Communion is very dreamy. You could play Innervate, Astral Communion. Just like you could have that start of Living Roots into Innervate, Living Roots, Pilfered Power, but it's pretty unlikely. In most scenarios, I would say Pilfered Power just isn't strong enough. So I'm going to call it a bad card, but it's certainly a very interesting design, and it gets you dreaming. In Arena, this card's going to be pretty bad as well, since you're not going to be drafting as many token cards as constructed. We have Lunar Visions, which is 5 mana, draw 2 cards, but minions get reduced by 2, which encourages a minion-focused deck. I think this is a really fascinating way to do card draw. Blizzard/Hearthstone's team has been really allergic to printing draw cards, but in this expansion, we're already seeing a few reveals of ways to draw cards very specifically. They have no problem with discovering cards. They don't have a problem with drawing specific situational cards. Suppose you were to play this card with only minions in your deck, and that's probably never going to happen because Swipe is too good and Innervate is too good, possibly. But what if you get the dream of you draw 2 minions? Then that means you've basically spent 1 mana to draw 2 cards, and that's really good. If you draw 1 minion, you spend 3 mana to draw 2 cards, and that's okay. And of course, you don't actually spend 3 mana. It's slightly worse because you have to pay up front. You have to pay the 5 mana now, and you get discount later. Very similar to Farsight. I think you don't discard this card too early. I'm going to say it has potential early on, but it's one of the things that I'm going to require more than 1 minute to think about the card. I think it has potential to be better than Nourish. I mean, certainly if you draw 2 minions, it's better than Nourish. And finally, we have from the mean streets of Gadgetzan, a card that people are already calling the meme streets of Gadgetzan, the 0 mana 7/7. This is a Druid card which allows you to, on turn 10, nearly literally play a 7/7 for free. We actually taken a look into Druid, and right now Arcane Giant is usually played on turn 10 plus, and it's usually a 0 mana 8/8. This card doesn't require you to build your deck around anything. We don't always play Arcane Giant as 0 mana. You can actually play Arcane Giant as 8 mana 8/8. You can play it as like a 4 mana 8/8. You can play it as a 5 mana 8/8. So I'm going to say this, it's not as good as it looks. It looks ridiculously good, but it's not as good as it looks. Not all games last until turn 10 for one, and sometimes it's like pretty slow play. Sometimes you play this and it's just not fast enough. You can gain 10 armor, which is actually a good choice sometimes. It'll be a legitimate choice because you're on turn 10, you're up against an aggressive deck, you need some life gain, you choose the 10 armor. This is a pretty good combination with Aviana. You play Aviana and then you play the Kun, and then you have 10 mana, and then you play your 10 other minions which you're somehow holding in your 12 card hand. So that's the dream, but it's pretty unlikely. I mean, if you want to do that, why not just play your Emperor Thaurissan, and then you play Aviana and then your extra card. Anyways, I'm quite certain that a card like this would have been thoroughly tested by Blizzard's testing team. I'm going to say this isn't as good as it looks, but I actually think it looks pretty amazing. And it will probably see you play in a late game Druid, so it's a pretty good card. From the Hunters, we have an awesome weapon. It's a Piranha Launcher. The art director was really impressed by the Piranha Launcher. Like, think about the flavor. It's awesome. You're launching piranhas at people. Now, before we dismiss the card because it's a 5-mana 2/4 weapon, that's not that much beneath the Assassin's Blade, which people didn't really laugh at that much. Each time you use the attack, you're spawning a 1/1, basically fucking attack value. If you get enough turns, this card is a 5-mana 4/4, and you deal 8 damage. That's pretty good, right? But the main problem is getting that many turns. It does feel extremely slow. The turn you play it, you've played 5 mana to deal 2 damage and summon a 1/1. Very, very slow card. Probably far too slow. And I haven't seen a slow Hunter deck get any value. So, rip Piranha Launcher. Even Arena, I think this card will be too slow. Mage gets Manic Soulcaster. It's a 3-mana 3/4, which isn't bad, of course. This is a cool effect, which means that if you are playing a singleton deck, you can fatigue them out a bit longer because you go a little bit longer. You add another copy into your deck, which means it's like playing a 31-card deck, kind of. The effect isn't actually that strong, but it could see play in that Reno Mage deck. Perhaps you want to get another Kazakus in there. Got the potential to do amazing stuff, to like get super long-term value. Will the dream ever be accomplished? Sometimes things are not practical enough to do so, but at worst it's a 3-mana 3/4, so it can't be that bad. I'll rate this card as having potential. You can put 2 Renos to your deck. Pretty cool. Duplicate isn't standard anymore, but you can use Manic Soulcaster to get more than 2 copies of stuff. Alright, from Paladin, we've got Mean Street Marshal. A 1-mana 1/2 is terrible, but a 1-mana 1/2 draw a card, that could be pretty strong. I think it's a decent 1-drop. From the person who said that Runic Egg had a small bit of potential, I think Mean Street Marshal definitely has potential. And you can play Abusive Sergeant on it to temporarily boost it, and then trade it. It draws a card. Nice. In Arena, probably not going to be able to combine this reliably enough. It's just going to be a 1-mana 1/2. Although it's still better than Runic Egg, because Runic Egg usually you would want to have something to combine with it in order for it to work. Getaway Kodo. A cool secret which makes it so that when your minion dies, it just goes back into your hand. It's kind of similar to Duplicate, actually. Except instead of getting 2 copies, you get 2 copies. Now, before you guys groan about Secret Paladin, it turns out that because of the way that Noble Sacrifice works, it's not that crazy to have Getaway Kodo get pulled with your Secret Paladin in Wild, because you're just getting your 1-mana 2/1 back. Where there's quite a lot of potential, though, is that you play the Getaway Kodo in a very similar way that you set up Duplicate. You play a really good minion, and then you play Getaway Kodo. It's a lot easier than Mage to set up because it just costs 1 extra mana. So instead of playing your Tyrion on 8, you can play a Tyrion on 9 with Getaway Kodo. They have to get through it. That's pretty tough. Duplicate did see play in these grindy decks, and Getaway Kodo might start a kind of grindy type of Paladin. Mid-range Paladin was almost always like that. Flicker Flame Burn Bristle, the Paladin legendary from this set. It's just a 3-mana 2/2, Divine Shield Taunt. So you kind of looked at this and you're like, Shielded Mini Ball is 2-mana 2/2, Divine Shield. But this card, it's got quite a lot of potential, I think. It's pretty good. You're always getting, well, you don't always get the full health, but you almost always get the 4 health from this card dealing 4 damage when your opponent's minions attack into it. And then your opponent will usually have to use 1 attack minion to break the Divine Shield, or 1 attack, 1 damage thing. And then they have to use damage at least to kill them. So, therefore, that would mean it's worth at least 7 health. So even at its It's like a 3 mana deal 2 damage, gain 7 health, which is fantastic. It's probably better than Mistress of Mixtures in that regard, in terms of an anti-aggro card. And that's without even mentioning the fact that you can buff it. Paladin is kind of the buff class. You put a Blessing of Kings on it, you start gaining 6 a turn, it becomes a Tyrion. Incredible. I think this card is actually really good. Here's an example of Blizzard Hearthstone being cool with card draw if it's really specific. This is your opportunity to play a 1-cost deck. Drawing 3 for 3 mana is really good. You usually don't want to draw 1 mana cards in the late game, but for this card, you can actually make sure you thin out your deck out of all those 1-drops. You play this card, and you're guaranteed not to get any really terrible cards later on. It's there out of your deck. It doesn't even have to be an aggro deck. You put Mistress of Mixtures, Meanstream Marshal, and maybe one other 1 mana card, and you play small-time recruits. Could work out. When you have a card that says 3 mana, draw 3 cards, you find some way of trying to make it work. Shifter Xeris is a really cool way of getting it. Small-time recruits might make Shifter Xeris work. The dream. And of course, good 1-drop minions include Argent Squire as well. If you wanted to play this in a control deck, you'd want to justify minions that had more of a utility effect, such as Xeris, and such as Abusive Sergeant. Such as Runic Egg? Question mark? But I probably should say hi to this girl, right? Alright, we're gonna surprise her. Let's see. This time I've got the camera in the right spot, right? I think if I point this way, it's that direction. Boo! It's pretty good. Good to see you. Nice to meet you here. Thanks for being a fan. Sure. A hug. Sorry for scaring you. The class you've been waiting for, Priest, rumored to get some good cards, and now we see, okay, they might have some good cards. So we start with Potion of Madness. Since the start of Hearthstone, I've kind of labeled Shadow Madness, Shadow Goodness. And we've got Potion of Goodness here. For 1 mana, you gain control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attacks on the turn. That's just 1 more limited than Shadow Madness. And it's at 3 mana discount. That's incredible. This card's going to depend a lot based on whether or not 2 or less attack minions actually exist in the game. But the dream here, which is not that uncommon, like steal a 2-2, a 2-3, a 2-1, and you run into a 3-2, and you 2 for 1 with a 1 mana card. In the early game, that's incredible. It even combos with the next card that I'm going to show, the Pint-Sized Potion. But a 2 for 1 mana, even if it's really specific, that's pretty good. This is the type of card that I, as a control player, salivate over all the time. To be able to get a 2 for 1. And not only a 2 for 1, it's good in the early game because you use it to steal something and then you just run it into something else. Incredible. Really good in Arena where they're doing the 2 mana cards. Pint-Sized Potion is a very situational card. Giving all enemy minions -3 attack is usually intended to be used with some particular combo, such as maybe stealing it with a Cobalt Shadow Priest, or such as using a weird card like Confuse. That could be a board clear, Pint-Sized Potion plus Confuse. You can play it with Shadow Word Pain. You can simply play it as for combat. If you both have boards, you play Pint-Sized Potion, then you use your board to kill their board. I think that's very unlikely. Most minions are 5 attack or less, so Pint-Sized Potion plus Shadow Word Horror is going to be able to clear the board a lot of the time. That's incredible. Wow. Cobalt Talon Priest, similar to Dark Cultist of old. It's 3 mana 3/4, which gains 3 health instead of a Death Rattle. It's a Battle Cry. Battle Cry is probably better. So, looks like they're pushing some serious stats onto Priest here. This isn't strictly better than Dark Cultist, and we all thought that Dark Cultist was going to be ridiculously good. If you manage to land a 2-drop and then you follow up with this is like a 3 mana 3/7. Wow. So where's the 2-drop? We'll see whether or not there's a 2-drop. And, you know, before you lampoon me for saying Dark Cultist was not necessarily that good, see that much play, and in some cases, Dark Cultist was cut just because it wasn't enough stats. That'll be played in some decks that care about an early game. It certainly looks good though. It's hard to call a 3-mana 3/4, which is easily 3-mana 3/7 and stat card bad. I'll call it good, but it may be less good than expected. The two cards that won't be less good than expected is going to be Draconid Operative, 5-mana 5/6. Alright, that's pretty good. Dragon, that's pretty good. What, you actually get to draw a card too? Okay, that's pretty incredible. You play Azure Drake in most Dragon decks because it's 5-mana 4/4 draw a card, and that's good. But a 5-mana 5/6, and it's pretty much draw a card because discover a card from the opponent's deck, that's as good as drawing a card because your opponent is usually playing a good deck. You play this in Dragon decks, period. And it even makes all your other cards that rely on Dragon cards better. So now you actually do have a 2-mana 2/4 very consistently because Wyrmrest Agent will pick up so many Dragons. This card is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. It's bonkers. 5-mana 5/6 draw card. That raises the level of Dragon Priest by a huge level, but perhaps not as much as Dragonfire Potion does. So why was Dragon Priest before really good? Well, it had Light Bomb. Light Bomb was really good. The dragons all had high health values. You can catch back up by clearing their board. But now with Dragonfire Potion, you clear the board no matter what. Because if you don't have dragons on the board, okay, you just deal 5 damage to their board. If you have dragons on the board, okay, you deal 5 damage to just their board anyways. There's a few cards you run in Dragon Priest which do get hit by Dragonfire Potion, but you can always just trade them in or attack face first and then do the potion. It's really, really good. So, you know, I think these two cards by themselves are probably enough to say, alright, Dragon Priest is going to be a serious deck. Those two cards are absolutely incredible. It's entirely possible that you even play this card in Control Priest, even if you're not playing dragons. Deal 5 to everything. If you're playing Control Priest, I mean, you usually play Excavated Evil, which is 5 mana, deal 3 damage to everything. Why not play Dragonfire Potion instead? Plus 1 mana, deal 2 extra damage to everything. It's good. Here's a card that I actually didn't think we were ever going to print. Counterfeit Coin looks extremely bad, I'm sure. And in any class other than Rogue, it probably would have been a joke. Well, not necessarily. Counterfeit Coin isn't bad because with Gadgetzan Auctioneer, you just get an extra mana and then you replace your card. It just turns out that any 0 mana card is worth seriously considering because Gadgetzan Auctioneer exists in the game. You can now play Edwin on turn 1, and it could be coin, 8/8. Actually, you can coin, and then play a 1 mana spell, and then play Edwin, and it's a 10/10. So, I think this is a really appropriate card. Card art is also awesome. I like this plucky little panda. I look forward to seeing her card. But basically, the card doesn't suck mainly because Gadgetzan Auctioneer is in the game, mainly because Rogue has combo cards, it's flexible. Innervate is ridiculous, so half Innervate must do that. Lotus Assassin, 5 mana, 5/5. Whenever this minion kills an enemy, gains stealth. I think this is a reasonable 5-drop, which can just stick around on the board and keep being a threatening card. I mean, 5 mana, 5/5 stealth. That's in Stranglethorn Tiger, which is a card that's played. So this card is Stranglethorn Tiger plus some extra stuff. Obviously in Arena it's excellent because of this stat value. You play this 5 mana 5/5, you kill a Yeti, and then it becomes a 5/1, and then even a stealth 5/1 is very powerful. Because not all the classes deal 1 damage with stealth card. I think ultimately in Constructed, you don't really see a mid-range Rogue deck, and is this card even enough value to catch up Rogue in the mid-game? It's not a catch-up card, it's a slow value card. It's a cool card. No Shaman cards and no Warlock cards revealed yet. So we end with a simple I know a guy, which kind of concludes our card reveals for now with a cool another Discover card. I know a guy discovers a taunt minion. There's some early game taunt minions like Fierce Monkey. There's some late game taunt minions such as Chill Maul and such as Sogoth. So there's definitely flexibility. Anti-aggro cards such as Second Rate Bruiser and Fierce Monkey, you can go in the opposite direction and discover the super late game cards. Alright, had to speed up the last part, but we've gotten through it. Really cool that I get to do this straight from BlizzCon. We're getting out of here. Thanks for watching. Straight from BlizzCon, it's Trump. See ya.
Hey guys, how's it going? Crane here, coming at you from BlizzCon. So the expansion was announced. So Main Streets of Gadgetzan is coming up in early December, I guess. So any date that isn't tomorrow is too late as far as players are concerned. But hey, I guess that'll do. And at BlizzCon they announced a bunch of the new cards, so we get a feel for them, we get to really understand what their idea is for this expansion, and I want to review the cards and talk a little bit about the impression overall. So, yes, it's got over 130 cards, and some of them have multi-class types. So some of them, and listed here, there's the Briny, Boons, there are Hunter Paladins, Warrior cards, and these are cards that look like neutral cards but have a little bit of a banner, and they can be used in either one of the three classes. So far, these type of cards that have the multi-class cards are pretty dull to just discover whatever, and it seems like there's some potential there, and maybe it's way to the future for an extension. Let's see. The Cabal, the Mage, Priest Warlock, and the Jade Lotus card.
Such a weak flesh.
So to kick it off, awesome Druid card. Rotten King, 10 mana 7/7, choose one, get 10 armor or refresh your mana crystals. So basically it can be a 0 mana 7/7, but if you get 2 turn mana or ramp, temporarily it protects that Druid does have 2 10 mana to really play the card. And actually the card resembles very much the card that I think I highlighted in one of my best user created cards. This type of mechanic is really cool. It has a lot of potential. Basically, if you get to a high mana level, you are rewarded. And I think the card is one of those wild cards. It can be like it's too slow and I'll never see him play, or it can be a deck-defining, game-breaking potentially to the card. And it's tough to say which one of the two it'll be, but as a standalone card, it's definitely pretty damn cool. I'll certainly be saying that. And then there's Lunar Visions, 5 mana, draw 2, minions drawn cost 2 less. So pretty fair card. If you have a lot of minions in your deck, it's pretty good. If it lands on 1 minion, it satisfies the traditional pay 3 mana, draw 2 cards, but it costs 5 rather than 3 to activate, so that makes it a little bit worse. But because you have a chance of getting 2 minions, a chance of getting like 1.5 minions is the average for your deck, then the card is pretty damn good. So interesting card, seems good to me. We have Pilfered Power, 3 mana, gain an empty mana crystal for each friendly minion. This seems like a really powerful card, but it's kind of dividing on the Druid archetypes. So a lot of Druid decks have just a few minions, a lot of spells. A lot of Druid decks have a lot of minions and like no draw. Those ones don't need to ramp. So it seems like an extraordinarily powerful card, but it doesn't fit any traditional deck if you really think about it. So is it deck defining? Is it good enough to have like a curved Druid or something like that? I would think not, but
soon the shadows shall rise.
and we have Mark of the Lotus, 1 mana, give your minions +1/+1, and there's a Druid card, choose one, does this for 2 mana, is it one for 1 mana? I don't really think it'll be like game breaking again, but again, it could be. It's a very powerful card. I think it's going to be a very good addition to like the Raven Pile Arsenal, something like that. So good that it exists. And then a Hunter Weapon, Piranha Launcher. 5 mana, 2/4. Whenever your hero attacks someone, a 1/1 Piranha. The Piranhas are ended beasts. They don't have any special abilities, just 1/1. That's it. And it's a pretty good card. I mean, if you get 4 attacks in, it is obviously super valuable. If you compare it to a card like Doomhammer, it does less damage, but you put minions on the board. They basically get 4/4 worth of stuff on the board throughout the life of the card. So it's kind of like one of those cards that pay out to stay in the game for a long time. And really, that's not something Hunter does very well. So I'll be curious to see if this card is good enough to make that Hunter type of deck alive. And I would guess no. But cool card. We have Manic Soulcaster, 3 mana, 3/4. Mage card, battle cry, choose your friend, and then shuffle a copy of it into your deck. So this card is pretty nice. It just fits the standard 3-mana 3/4 super powerful 3-drop slot, and it has a pretty decent effect. Very powerful in the fatigue deck. Very powerful if for whatever reason you choose to have singles only in your deck, and your deck relies on very few specific cards. So, overall it's not like the broken power level, but I think it might fit on some constructed decks, and it just fits the good power level. So if there's ever a need for the synergy, and it's not better placed by another card, you might use the card. Why not? Then we have the Paladin Legendary card, 3-2/2 Wicker Flame Burn Bristle. Divine Shield Taunt. Of course, it's a Paladin Legendary. And this one, damage dealt by this card heals your hero for that damage dealt, so it's obviously extremely buffs, but the reason I think the card will probably not... Okay, it's a really good card. Okay, it's a really good card, but I fear that the card will have a lot of setbacks because the priest will have an easy time disposing a card like this, and as you will soon see, there's probably going to be a lot of priests on that. We have small time recruits, 3 mana, draw 3, 1 cost of the deck. So this card doesn't look that powerful, but I think it's extremely powerful. 1-drops in this game are just so busted because of their overall mana efficiency that paying 6 mana to play 3 chosen 1-drops is actually fair. So you get a fair card, and you basically get to thin your deck out of 1-drops, so your top decks are super insane. And this is actually the main strength of Secret Paladin, so actually I think this card is incredibly powerful. The one downside with it is it's basically straight draw, so it basically competes for Divine Favor slot. So it's a ridiculously powerful card, and Divine Favor is also a ridiculously powerful card, but I don't think both of them will work together very well in a deck. So I don't think it forwards that deck too much, but maybe. It definitely seems very good. It's definitely better than Divine Favor in cases where there's a lot of other aggro decks where Divine Favor fails, and small time recruits will absolutely succeed. So, really cool card, likely very powerful. And Mean Street Marshal, 1 mana, 1/2, Death Rattle. If this minion has 2 or more attack, draw a card. So you have a lot of buffs, and if you're playing decks probably with a prior card, you probably have a lot of buffs. So yeah, the card was pretty decent in that type of deck. Getaway Kodo, new Paladin secret. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. So I don't like it that much. It's definitely going to have some cases if you have extremely powerful Death Rattle or Battlecry minions, or just a lot of both of those categories. The card's probably going to be pretty powerful, but I feel like there's going to be cards that are going to satisfy this role a little bit better than this one. Priest card, Dragon Fire Potion. For some reason, I guess I overlooked this card when they were originally revealed because I played at BlizzCon and got smashed by it. Oh my god, this card is insanity. So this card just feels like an auto-include in every Priest deck, and it's particularly ridiculous in Dragon Priest because it won't even damage your own, like, wow. Okay, this card is nutso. Yeah. Hello, Priest Overlords, I guess. Then we have Draconoid Operative, as if we needed more incentive to play Dragon Priest. 5 mana, 5/6, extremely good stats on its own. It's a dragon, so it'll enable other dragons if you need it. And the battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, you discover a card from your opponent's deck. So it's about as good as card draw. Usually cards that take cards from your opponent's deck are a little bit worse than card draw because you usually lose the synergistic side of that exchange, but because you get to choose between the 3, you can probably find one that is actually pretty fitting in the given situation, plus you get the information of 2 other cards from your opponent's deck, so you get a better idea about what they're playing. So I actually think it's better than draw a card. So it's 5 mana, 5/6 dragon, and if you're holding a dragon, draw a little bit more than 1 card. So that's absolutely insane. And we have Pint-Sized Potion, 1 mana, give all enemies -3 attack this turn only. Seems like a pretty clunky card to use, but if you'd ever get even one decent use, it's probably amazing. So hard to gauge this card. Again, could be useless, could be really good, one of those wild cards in the game. Priest is going to have so many insane cards after this expansion that it's really difficult, even though this card looks really good, to say that it's going to be better than those other cards, because Priest has just traditionally been one of these classes that has a fairly tight budget for card slots in their decks, and we'll see. maybe it'll work out. And we have Cabal Talon Priest, 3 mana, 3/4 battle cry, give a friendly minion +3 health. Yes, this card is really good, guys. Really, really good. It's a common card, so you're going to see a lot of them in Arena, and I actually think that's kind of a problem, because if a priest goes first, their 2-drop is often going to stick. Now, priests have really crappy 2-drops and almost non-existent 1-drops, but if you go first, usually your 2-drop sticks, and if your 2-drop sticks and you play this on it, you will just likely just win the game on the spot. So that is ridiculously big for priests in Arena. I think it might be a bit of a problem card in Arena, in fact, but it's on priest, so again, I welcome our priest overlords, I suppose. Potion of Madness, 1 mana, gain control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attack until end of turn. So it's like Shadow Madness, except more restrictive, but it costs 1 mana and is common. Holy crap. Like, it's just insanity, right? Like, these cards are ridiculous. If you manage to put in some attack debuffs, or if... the thing is, like, I think this card is really good, and I think Priest is going to be so good that this card and Priest being good together is going to